Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another official predictions video. This week we got a stack card. We got UFC 299, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera 2 in the main event. Ton of other fights that are very, very competitive. Are going to be fun to watch, so I'm excited to break this fight card down. Already did an early breakdown of predictions, and I will say I have a couple different predictions after looking into some fights a little bit more than I had from that video. So we're going to be having some underdogs, and I feel like I have some pretty good reads on certain fights and think we're going to cash and make some money this week. So if you're interested in making some money, go to patreon.com/MPredictionGuru. I already have a bet for the PFL show, and I'm going to be putting out a full card breakdown and predictions video for that show shortly after this video for Patreon. And there's a few other promotions. There's going to be MMA ramping up all year round, so get in now. Let's make some money and let's start cashing on these bets, man. But first fight of the night for this card, we got Joanne Wood. She's taking on Marina Moros, and two veterans. And obviously, Marina Moros coming off 2 losses in a row after she had a pretty long win streak to kind of get back into top 10 contention after a layoff. And for Joanne Wood, she won her last fight against Luana Carolina, but has been fighting pretty infrequently. And I do believe that this is going to be her last fight. And this is a rematch. If you watch the first fight from 2015, it was a pretty easy fight for Moros, and it was a big upset at the time. Moros was like Joanne was like a minus 900 favorite. Moros came in for her first fight, and I don't think there was as much known about her, but she jumped guard in that fight and got the armbar and got the finish. So it was really quick, and Marina Moros at that time was undefeated with 5 finishes, so she had a ton of confidence, and she was able to go in there and get another armbar, which is what she was getting in a lot of her fights. So obviously, even to this day, though, you look at Joanne Wood, and submission and grappling has been an issue for her. So that's still going to be potential. But for me, if I'm looking at how these girls should fight, for Moros, I think that she needs to try to use her boxing to back up JoJo and then get in the clinch, get the takedowns, get on top. And if she can pull guard and get off her back, I think she'll be more dangerous there than even she is from the top position, because I think on top she's good, but I feel like Calderwood actually has a better chance at staying safe there. I think that, honestly, Moros is more dangerous from her full guard than she is from on top. So I think that that's a more dangerous place to be. And after seeing more of Marina Moros, the first fight with her, maybe JoJo overlooked her a bit. She's going to know now that if she keeps it standing, she should have advantage on the feet. I think that Moros has the boxing, but Joanne's going to be more active. She's going to be able to land leg kicks. I think she's going to have better range striking in this fight. So it's going to come down to, really, in my opinion, is if Moros can hit the takedowns. Because in this fight, I don't think that Joanne's going to give up that guard pull like she did in the first fight. I think she's going to be a little bit more knowledgeable not to go to the ground with Moros. So, honestly, I favor Wood on the feet. I just don't think Wood is going to likely keep it at range. She's an aggressive fighter. She loves to clinch. And if she gets in tag with Moros, I'm just going to be nervous because she could end up getting tripped or taken down. But I'm going to lean towards Joanne Wood just because of the line. I'm going to predict her to get the victory here via decision. I think she could put damage on in the 3rd round, and all she has to do is kind of steal one of those first 2 rounds by avoiding going to the ground, and she can get the win. If Moros wins, I think it's going to be inside the distance, man. I think it's going to be via submission or maybe via ground and pound from the top position, which I think is a little more unlikely. But if you're on the Marina Moros side, I would bet her to win inside the distance. It's way better odds, and I think her money line is a little bit off at this point. And I think that Moros submission obviously is a live prop, but I'm going to go with Joanne Wood via decision. And the second fight on the card, we got CJ Vergara taking on Assu Almabaev. Seems like the UFC is trying to set up Almabaev a little bit here. And you look at the matchup, I think Amayev, it looks like a pretty impressive fighter. He's on a 14-fight win streak. He's going to be a little bit younger, 30 versus 32, so 2 years younger. He has good footwork. He's pretty fast in and out. He'll be active with his leg kicks and decent kicker to all parts of the body in general. Pretty good spinning kick. She'll throw spinning back fists. Pretty good check hook. Can get a little bit wild with the overhands, but he's an extremely good wrestler, offensively, defensively. Fast level changes. He can control guys up near the cage. Fast single leg. He hits big slams, and he can be hard to hold down as well. So he showed in his fight with Zach Makovsky, even if you can turn the tables on him, put him on his back, he can get back up. His ground and pound is good. He is willing to be methodical and patient on top. He doesn't normally lose position a lot, but 9 submission wins, a lot of rear naked chokes, good front chokes as well. His hands, like I said, they aren't really good. He can drop his hands sometimes and leave his chin on center line, which kind of gets him in danger. And when he throws that lead uppercut, that's a strike that sometimes can get you countered. So I'm not sure about his chin either. It hasn't been tested too much, and he hasn't fought the greatest competition. But for CJ Vergara, he's going to have the size advantage. He's obviously missed weight even a couple times, so big flyweight, more UFC experience. He has that dog in him. And pressure fighter, he has good boxing. He uses the jab to kind of set up combinations. He'll go to the body, switch stance, good teeps, good round kicks, pretty solid punching power. He's pretty explosive as well. I saw he was able to explode back up or sweep Tatsuro Taira, who's a good grappler, just off explosion. His rear naked choke defense looks decent. And he has good ground and pound when he can get on top, good cardio. A little bit older for flyweight. He's almost 33. And I would say his takedown defense is not great. Grappling isn't great. Gives up his back. He doesn't defend kicks well either. He doesn't check leg kicks, which Almabaev is a good kicker. So for me, I think what would be successful for Vergara would be movement, kicks, trying to time the takedown. Or what would be successful for Assu, I think movement, kicks, time the takedown, try to get the back takes, and use his speed. And for Vergara, I think he has to try to pressure, feint, and attack the body, and check leg kicks, try to keep it standing. But I think this should be an easy fight for Assu Amayev, and I don't see many paths to victory for CJ. Amayev at distance should have the edge, just off speed, kicking ability, volume. He definitely has a chance of hitting a spin kick as well. I mean, we saw Lacerda hurt CJ Vergara with a spin kick. And if CJ pressures, I think Amayev can land easy takedowns, get the back. The bigger question to me is if CJ's toughness and his rear naked choke defense will hold up over 3 rounds. And I think it's possible, but ultimately I'm going to predict that Amayev gets the submission in the second round. And for this next fight, we got Robell Despain taking on Josh Perisian. Really interesting fight here that I think a lot of people are just penciling in Despain as the favorite, which is a little surprising to me. But low-level heavyweight fight. Robell Despain, I mean, he looks the part. The guy's huge, 87-inch reach, 6'7". He's undefeated at 4-0, super confident, has shown unreal power, 4 fights, 4 first-round finishes. And, his first fight went a little bit of time, 4 minutes, 54 seconds, but his last 3, his second fight went 12 seconds, his third fight went 3 seconds, and his most recent fight went 4 seconds. So he's taking guys out literally right away. Taekwondo Olympic gold medalist and bronze medalist, and incredibly aggressive, fast head kicks, insane power in his right hand, accurate hooks, close range power. I mean, he has some weird KOs, nice knees. But this is his first UFC fight and extremely limited amount of cage time. I mean, he's used to hitting opponents one time and then falling over. This is going to be his first real experienced opponent. He only has been trained MMA since 2019, so doesn't really have a lot of training experience either. And I've seen Despain get held up against the cage. The ref had to kind of break it up a couple times. He didn't really pummel well or get off the cage himself. 0 wrestling footage from Robell that we've seen. Really 0 grappling. Cardio is an unknown. His chin is an unknown. I don't really like his training situation. It doesn't seem like he trains with great guys. The best guy that I saw that he was training with was Alex Nicholson. But Josh Parisian, not the best fighter, but Huge experience advantage. He's had multiple fights in the UFC. Very tough guy. Uses the jab, comes forward with hand combos, decent pressure, big right hand. He'll throw some spins too and some head kicks. He has, in my opinion, a big advantage in the clinch. I think that's what he needs to use here. Try to use that clinch control against the cage, maybe hit a double. And he's decent on the ground. He's pretty good on top if he gets there. Active ground and pound. Pretty good get-up game. He'll attack with submissions when he's put on his back. He has a good chin. And he could push the pace for a heavyweight. But hittable, he's in big danger of getting knocked out here. Exit the pocket with his hands low. Can just wing punch counters when he gets pressured or hurt. Doesn't really have the best composure. Got dropped early by Almabaev. Big speed disadvantage here. I think he lacks power as well. Bad defensive wrestling. And he's coming off a pretty bad performance against Martin Buday. But I would say for Despain, it's hard to say much else besides blitz forward. Look to get Perisian out of there early like he has others. If he can't settle in, then maybe use his speed, try to snipe, stay moving in space, and try to get out of the clinch. But if he can't finish early, I think it's going to be a real question mark how he's going to look. But for Perisian, he can't be scared. He has to pressure right away, use his chin to absorb some damage if need be. Try to make it a longer fight, make it a dog fight. Try to push Despain back, put him against the clinch, and eventually get him on his back. And if you get on top, I think you should do well if you're a Perisian. And also Perisian should use his cardio as a weapon. And I don't agree with the line. I mean, I get Perisian being the underdog, but the line is too wide for someone like Despain, who's really unproven. Perisian has a tough chin. If he could survive early or get on top of Despain, we really have no idea how Despain's going to handle that. But I personally see this fight being Despain in the first or Perisian in the second. I don't see this going to third or decision. The line is tempting to pick Perisian, but right now I'm going to lean towards Robell getting that first round knockout. If his power is the real deal, he's going to have the openings to land early and probably put Perisian out. But definitely think Perisian is a live underdog in this fight. And up next here, we got a fight that initially I was kind of leaning towards Michał Oleksiejczuk potentially getting the victory here. But after watching tape, I kind of flipped my prediction to Michel Pereira. I feel like Michał Oleksiejczuk, he is not going to be as good, in my opinion. I could be wrong, at middleweight as he was at 205. I think that he's going to have a big speed disadvantage in this fight. I think at 205 he was a really fast guy. And obviously the wrestling was an issue for him. And in this division, I think he handles wrestling better. Like we saw that with Kyle Barallo. He was able to stuff a few takedowns before he got taken down. But he gets tired, man. And I think if Michel can get out of the first round and use some wrestling, he's actually going to be the guy that has that bigger dog in him, is going to throw more volume and have the better cardio even down the stretch. I know a lot of people always have that narrative with Pereira that he gets tired, and I do think that he slows down, but even in fights where he gets tired, he's willing to bite down in the mouthpiece and keep throwing, and I feel like Michał peters out a lot more. But more what I see here too is I think that with Michel's ability to switch stance, he's going to be able to kick from both stances. I think that's going to give Michał a lot of issues. I think he can go to the legs, go to the body, and then eventually open up a head kick. We saw Michał get head kicked and hurt pretty bad in his fight with Chidi Njokuani. And just the way he comes in, trying to close the distance with that head movement, that head kick is going to be available for Pereira. I think that Pereira is the better wrestler, so Michał doesn't really have that ability. If he's losing the striking to close the distance and make it more of a grimy fight, I think that Michał will be able to win there. So personally, I'm leaning towards Michel Pereira, and I actually think he's going to be able to get a knockout here. I think he's going to be able to land a big head kick, big knee to the head potentially, and get Oleksiejczuk out of there. So I know Pereira's been more of a decision fighter in the UFC, but I think this is a decent matchup for him to get a knockout here. And this next fight, closing out the early prelims, we got Ion Cutelaba taking on Felipe Lins in the light heavyweight division. And both these guys are veterans. We kind of know what they are all about. Ion, he was able to save his career with that big win over Tanner Bozer's last fight. It seemed like he he lost that one, he potentially would have been cut. He would have been 1-4 in his last 5 fights, but quick knockout win and has new life here, and he's taking on a fighter who's on a 3-fight winning streak in Felipe Lins, so he has a chance to take away some hype from Lins. And Cutelaba, I mean, extremely powerful, explosive, good first-round finisher, nice kicks, good left kicks, good 1-2s, double jab too. He obviously is southpaw, so that left kick is a big part of his game, and he likes to throw a lot of those body kicks, head kicks, because it's hard to really do much besides either eat or block those when you're in that southpaw versus orthodox stance. But he has big power in his left hand, one-punch knockout power, strong wrestling, really good wrestling, good clinch takedowns, good ground and pound, but can get over aggressive on top, get reversed. He has been submitted several times. His submission defense isn't the best. Composure cardio is not good. He doesn't pace himself. Head movement isn't good either. And suspect chin, and it seems like he can break and quit in there. But for Felipe Lins, he has got in great shape to fight at 205. He has good hand speed, pretty good punching power, good clinch control. He isn't the best with his head position in the clinch, and he could make mistakes there, but he uses his cardio, and that clinching becomes a weapon for him due to that. He is good at jabbing to the body to bring the hands down and then coming over the top with a big hook, big overhand, good uppercut. He has 9 knockout wins, long arms, pretty relentless guy, good cardio. Solid chin, in my opinion, even though he's been knocked out 3 times. I do think his chin is pretty good. Takedown defense is good. He has good get-ups. He doesn't accept bottom position. He will attack submissions. Not a lot of submission wins, but 4 submission wins. He doesn't really check leg kicks well, which isn't good, and a little reckless. He can drop his hands. His offensive wrestling is a little subpar, and I would say maybe E1 when they're both fresh is going to be better in the clinch. But great fight. I think it's going to be guaranteed action. In the stand-up, E1 needs to try to invest in low kicks, even though with that southpaw versus orthodox stance, it's going to be a little bit hard. But look for the big left hand early as well. Try to end the fight in the first round. And if E1 can win the clinch exchanges and get on top, that's going to go a long way in him winning the fight, especially if he could cement and keep top position. Cutelaba needs to not exchange and be as open, because I think he's going to find himself in trouble when he gets combos thrown back at him here. Has to pace himself better too, because obviously that's been a constant issue for him. But for Felipe Lins, he has to be aggressive but not reckless early. Try to close the distance, clinch up, start the fight in high pace. Even if he has to give up a takedown or two, some ride time to E1, that's fine in the long run. Lynch just needs to show resistance early, get back up if he's taken down, maybe throw up a couple submissions, and if he can extend the fight, I think that's when he should force more punch exchanges, use his hand speed, because he'll likely start to land, and at that point, maybe he'll be able to have more success grinding. And this fight to me is going to come down to both fighters can avoid getting clipped early, who is superior in the clinch over 3 rounds. And I'm going to say that Lins takes this one. I think a submission win is on the table and might be a good price tag. So I also think this is a good live betting spot. So I like this fight, and I think that Felipe Lins is going to make it 4 victories in a row here. And for this next fight, we got kicking off the prelims. And this is a hell of a fight to be kicking off the official prelims, man. I mean, Pedro Munhoz versus Phillips. 2 guys that are very fun to watch. 2 finishers in this bantamweight division. Fighters that have a lot of finishes on their record. And kind of a new guard versus old guard fight. It's interesting matchup as well, because obviously Pedro Munhoz fought Sean O'Malley, and Phillips is a main training partner for Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's in the main event in this fight, so kind of a little bit of a story there. But Pedro's a popular underdog this week, and I get it. I mean, he's in the top 10. He's fought the better opponents. Phillips has stumbled a couple times when he's taken this step up in competition. But I feel like Pedro's 39 years old now, man. He's getting up there, and eventually he's definitely going to start losing more than just a step or two, and he'll start to get dominated at these lower weight classes. I don't think his durability and obviously his power is going to be there as guillotine threat is going to be there. So he's always going to be a dangerous guy, and I don't think he's going to be easy to put away. But I just think his speed and everything is going to diminish, and he's not going to be as dangerous to finish guys as he used to be. But I think this is pretty much an IQ test for Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips is going to be significantly faster here. He's going to have way more weapons. And he has really fun, dynamic striking, really dangerous weapons too, like where he pulls guys into big elbows, big knees, big kicks. And throws a lot of one-strike attacks, which, sometimes isn't the best. But when he hurts you, he will mix in combos. He will go to the body. And in this fight, I just think he needs to not overexert himself. I mean, sometimes he has a tendency to be very aggressive early, throw the kitchen sink at guys, get real dynamic and be a showman, and then he doesn't have that same cardio in the second and third round, and opponents could take advantage of that. And if he does that against Pedro has the durability to stay in the fight, and the defense does not get hit with anything huge where he's going to be super affected. And then he could start to chip away, and it could be a bad night for Kyler. So Kyler just has to know that going into the fight, that he can't just go crazy. Just be efficient and use your speed advantage, and you'll be able to be very effective. And one thing in this fight that Kyler Phillips doesn't have, though, is his wrestling. And he wrestles really often. I mean, the guy pushes a high wrestling pace. And maybe I could be wrong here. Maybe he's not going to be afraid of Pedro Munhoz's guillotine and his grappling submission game, because he's a high-level submission guy himself, and he will put him on his back and show that's an issue for Pedro. But no one has really been willing to play that game with Munhoz. They've all wanted to keep it on the feet and avoid that jiu-jitsu. So if Phillips has to do that, and then Pedro gets active with the leg kicks early, then I could see Pedro cashing as that underdog winner for a lot of people that see him as a good underdog guy here. But ultimately, I just think that 39 years old, if Phillips fights smart and fights how he should have an easy night here, in my opinion. And I think he just has a lot more tools on the feet. I actually think that his offensive variety and weapons is something that Pedro has to respect a little bit more than other opponents. So I don't think he's just going to be walking him down with reckless abandon. I mean, those elbows are going to be an issue, especially they could cut you too. So, but ultimately, I'm going to predict Phillips wins via decision. I get why people are going with Munhoz, but I'm going to lean with Kyler Phillips here. And this fight, I don't got a ton to say about this one. I think it's a pretty straightforward fight. We got the biggest favorite on the card in Mateus Gamrot, taking on RDA here, the former UFC champion. And very surprised to see RDA coming back down to 155, especially to take this fight with Gamrot. I mean, I can't say I'm super surprised, just because I think if UFC called RDA and asked him to fight freaking John Jones, he would probably say yes. That's just the type of guy he is, the resume that he has. But he was pretty vehement on wanting to fight bigger names and wanting to fight at welterweight, and kind of gave up those title aspirations. So now it's interesting that he's come back down to 55. He's taken on someone that's very much in that title picture and that wants a title shot. So I don't know if RDA is thinking again that if I could beat this guy, I'm going to be back in the mix, or I'm going to stay at lightweight, or it's just another payday for him, another fight. But that's throwing me off a little bit. I don't think him cutting down to 55 at his age is going to be very good for him whatsoever, especially with the yo-yoing. I mean, if you're going to be at 155, you should stay at 155. You shouldn't bulk up and go back to 170 and come back down. And that's not good, man, especially at an older age. I think that he could get tired due to that. But I mean, stylistically, this fight's pretty easy to break down. Gamrot has a one-track mind in there. He wants to get the takedowns. He wants to grind on you, eventually find that submission. And RDA has always had issues with that grinding wrestling style. I feel like a lot of the times that he has had that problem has been at 170. I mean, the only guy you could really point to in recent memory, I know he has losses to like T-Bow and stuff way back in the day, but is Khabib, and that's even a long time ago, but where he got kind of grinded at 155. All the other ones were at 170. But I don't think he's fought this kind of wrestler. I don't think he's fought this kind of relentless fighter. And Gamrot has the chin. I mean, if RDA lands some power punches or some shots, I don't think he's going to be able to get him out of there. And ultimately, I just think he's not going to be able to keep up with the offense. that Gamrot's going to be throwing at him. I see him getting grinded down and probably losing a decision here. I don't see huge finishing upside for Gamrot, but I do think that the fact that this fight's at 155 gives him some finishing upside just because I don't like that weight cut for RDA. I wouldn't be surprised if he got super tired, and if that happens, then there is that chance that Gamrot could finish him. But ultimately, I'm going to predict Mateus Gamrot wins a decision with his style, grinding on RDA, hitting a lot of takedowns, mat returns, control against the cage, and getting the job done. And up next, we got Caitlyn Chookagian. She's taking on Macy Barber. And this fight that's, been talked about for a while now. I remember they were bringing this fight up years ago as a potential matchup, but obviously Barber had to take kind of a little bit of a bumpy road to get here, whereas Caitlyn Chookagian, I don't think she gets enough credit. I mean, obviously she doesn't have the most fan-friendly style and isn't a big name, but she's kind of been in the top 10, top 5 for almost a decade now. She's been a very formidable opponent since the 125-pound division opened. I don't think she's ever been outside the top 5 probably. So very, very good fighter in Caitlyn Chookagian, but coming off a pretty significant layoff. And if you saw the media day today, there's a lot of things going on in her life where she had 2 miscarriages and some issues there. So hopefully, she can eventually have a baby and everything like that can go good. But you got to factor that into the fight as well. And I feel like that is going to be a factor. Macy Barber, she's been active. She's been focused on training, on being a fighter full-time, getting better. Whereas Chookagian, she hasn't been fully focused. She hasn't fought in a year and a half. She's coming off her last fight, which is a loss. She's already a bit of an older fighter. So you could see her kind of starting to make that exit out of MMA. I don't want to say the exit because I don't know if she was going to retire or anything like that, but she's coming more towards the end, whereas Barber is 25. She's getting into her prime and really kind of trying to turn that corner and show that she's championship material. So I had a kind of an initial read where maybe Chookagian could keep this one at range. If Barber got the takedown, Chookagian kind of tie her up, maybe throw up a couple submissions, make it interesting to judge, and pick up a close victory. But ultimately now I feel like Barber's going to bring that heavy pressure. She's going to walk through a lot of the strikes that Chookagian is throwing, and I think that she's going to be landing bigger punches. I think she's going to clinch and be the more physical girl of the two and be able to do more damage. And if she can get on top of Chookagian, I think she could potentially finish her as well. So I kind of feel like Barber is my prediction now. I think she's going to get the win. I was a little bit unconfident in her, but the more that I looked into it and just the matchup, I feel like Barber is going to do well here. So I think Barber is going to be able to use that cardio, her youth, just her durability, her power, and just kind of break Chookagian here, break her down, and either finish her or win a pretty dominant decision. So give me Macy Barber in this one to get the win. Look impressive like she did against Amanda Hebos and be that much closer to a potential title shot. And this next fight, I don't really have a big technical breakdown on this one. I don't really think anyone can because it's hard to break down how these guys are going to look against each other. I mean, if you look at all of Curtis Blaydes' fights, you've never really seen him fight a wrestler, someone that's going to try to take him down, a grappler. So who knows? I mean, who knows if he's going to be put on his back. If he does get put on his back, I would have a big worry of how he's going to look there just because big wrestler, not used to being on bottom, could be major issues if he gets put on bottom against Almeida. But we don't really know how that's going to look. You would think, being a great amateur wrestler, having that big size advantage, he should be able to mitigate the takedowns when that's probably going to be, at least from what we've seen, all Almeida has in this fight. I don't know if Almeida's going to have the hands or the confidence to want to strike with Blaydes, who's not the greatest striker, but he's a decent striker, and I think he has the better striking in this matchup. So I'm going to go with Blaydes just because I think he's shown the more well-rounded skills. I think he's shown he could defend not defend takedowns. Like I just said, he hasn't really shown that. That's why it makes it interesting. But he's shown that he's a good wrestler and that he has hands. He could strike. Even though he's got knocked out a few times, I don't see Almeida as a big knockout threat here. Never shown that before in his fights. Obviously, at heavyweight, anything can happen. But Almeida's a small heavyweight too. So if Curtis Blaydes can keep it on the feet, I feel like he's going to be able to beat up Almeida and probably get the finish with strikes. But if Almeida has better boxing than we anticipate, maybe he could exploit Blaydes like other people have. Or maybe Blaydes' wrestling isn't going to be good enough and Almeida's going to take him down and do what he's done to other guys. So I think this is kind of a difficult fight to predict without seeing how these guys match up against each other's styles, because I don't think we've seen it before. But ultimately, I'm going to predict Curtis Blaydes gets this victory, and I'll say it's a first or second round KO TKO. And up next, we have an awesome fight kicking off this main card. Petr Yan, former UFC champion, taking on Song Yadong, young guy that a lot of people have pegged as a future UFC champion, including Uriah Faber and other people at Team Alpha Male. And man, I mean, this is one of the best fights the UFC could put together at bantamweight stylistically for a fan's pleasure. I mean, I feel like it's a pure striking fight. I see a lot of people saying Song Yadong could wrestle here as the grappling advantage. And just personally, I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I know sharp people that are saying that Song's going to hit a lot of takedowns. I don't see that, man. I don't see Song Yadong being able to hit takedowns on Petr Yan. And I think if he tries a couple and Yan stuffs him really easily, he'll just settle in and it'll be a striking fight. And Song Yadong isn't that type of guy either, I don't think. I mean, when he announced this fight or was asking for this fight, he was saying, let's figure out who has the best boxing. And I feel like he's going to want to go in there and throw down, make a fun fight for the fans. So I think this is a great matchup for Petr Yan. I mean, you look at Petr Yan's difficulties and struggles, it's been against guys that took him down. Even the fight with Sean O'Malley, almost a lot of people think that Petr Yan won that fight, right? I mean, it seems like almost everyone when it happened, and a lot of people now say that's a robbery, even though I don't agree with that. So if you think he could outstrike Sean O'Malley on the feet over 3 rounds, I don't know why you wouldn't think he could do it to Song Yadong. Just me personally, you look at Song Yadong, the guy has great intangibles. I mean, the guy's one of the most athletic fighters in the UFC. He's big for the weight class, extremely durable, like one of the best chins, and he has crazy power. So those things make you a bad motherfucker. They make you a tough guy to fight. But I feel like he doesn't have even close to the boxing quality or the striking acumen of Petr Yan. I mean, you look at Song Yadong striking, he throws hard kicks, but mostly punches, isn't really active with the kicks. Likes to throw that check hook. I mean, that left hook is really his main weapon that he's always looking to land. And then the big right hand. And those are his 2 main punches. Super fast, very powerful. If he connects clean, he could put your lights out. But comes forward with the high guard. He likes to let guys almost touch him so he could return. And I don't think that stuff is going to work against someone that's supremely schooled on the feet like Petr Yan. I think Petr Yan's going to throw the better combinations. I think he's going to rip the body. I think he's going to be able to mix in calf kicks and a little bit more variation in the striking out of the 2 guys. I don't see the wrestling being a factor, like I said. And I just think Petr Yan is the superior striker in this matchup. I think it's actually going to be pretty evident. I think Song Yadong is obviously going to be live. He's going to make it a fun fight because he's not going to quit on himself. He's going to pressure. He's going to take a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, I think Petr Yan is going to be able to rip the body primarily to open up head strikes, land a lot of clean shots, and I see him avoiding a lot of the major power punches of Yadong. I don't see Yadong being successful with the wrestling, even if he goes there. And I just think Petr Yan is going to be able to get the better of the striking by a pretty wide margin. The only thing I'm a little worried about, obviously, is where's Petr Yan's head's at with the losses, and also the fact that it's a 3-round fight, and it is true that the first round Petr Yan tends to start really slow, give up that round in a lot of his matchups. So if he gives up that round, then maybe Yadong would have a chance to steal one of the other rounds and kind of steal the fight. But even with saying that, I still think Petr Yan's going to get the win here, and I'm going to say he wins via decision. And this next fight, Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. I'm having a difficult time with this one. I'm going to need your guys' help in the comments. Don't really have a good read on this fight whatsoever. Jack Della Maddalena, I feel like this is a huge step up in competition, and we've never seen him fight a wrestler or grappler even close. I guess you could say Hafez, but I feel like Burns is a level above him. So it's like Jack Della's never fought a grappler at the level of Gilbert Burns, and he struggled with other grapplers. But then you look at Gilbert Burns, he's older. He's coming off of a fairly significant layoff. He's already had a couple chances where he fought Amayev in a number one contender fight. He fought for the belt. So now he's pretty far away. He's fighting Jack Della to kind of save his spot in the top 10. So where's the motivation for Burns going to be? He's coming off a pretty significant injury as well. All those things are not good, and they're favoring Jack Della. But it's just hard for me to be very confident in Della with that takedown defense that he's shown, man. I feel like his takedown defense is not very good. I feel like if he gets taken down by Gilbert Burns and gives his back or gives up that arm triangle position, the chance that he gets submitted is pretty high. And I don't necessarily know if he's going to be able to get back up to his feet if he's taken down by Gilbert Burns. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to do that. And as far as the striking goes, I think Jack Della has a pretty significant advantage. Obviously, he has great hands, rips the body, throws combos, but pretty easy style to read. He's not super dynamic. He doesn't have a lot of crazy striking that he comes through. He's just coming forward with that subtle head movement, looking to rip the body to come up the top of the hooks. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, he has some slick boxing on the inside, but he's not really going to throw crazy kicks or anything wild like that. So Burns is going to know. I mean, he's going to be pressuring in. He's going to be looking to box. He's going to be looking to attack Burns' body to open up the head attack. And he's going to move into the area where Burns could grab him. So Burns is going to have a chance to use his grappling. And Jack Della can brawl sometimes, and he has to respect Burns' power, man. If Burns touches him on the chin like Basso Hafez was touching him on the chin, he'll probably drop him or hurt him. We saw even Angelosa, I think he dropped or definitely rocked Jack Della at minimum. So we've seen it happen before. But then with Gilbert Burns, I don't trust his chin either. Even though he hasn't been knocked out that many times, he gets hurt in a lot of fights. I feel like he gets wild when he gets hurt, and he's facing a more cerebral striker here. So to me, this fight's really difficult to predict, honestly. I'll say Jack Della Maddalena wins via second round knockout, but I don't feel good about that prediction. I feel like Gilbert could easily take him down and submit him, or just dominate from the top position. But with the injuries that he's been having, even injuries in fights, the age, the fact that he's already kind of made it to the top and it's going to be difficult for him to do it again, I think Maddalena is going to have a little more motivation and he's going to get the win. But difficult fight to predict, man. Difficult fight to predict, but Maddalena via second round knockout. And for this next one, Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of this fight. Personally, I feel like it's going to be a fairly boring point fight. A lot of talking, a lot of kind of dancing on the outside. I think that both these guys are really weird fighters, obviously. They have kung fu backgrounds. And Holland has those crazy long arms, which I think that MVP is going to have to figure out how to deal with that. I don't think he's ever dealt with someone with crazy length like that, really. But we know how Kevin Holland fights. I mean, his striking is good, and he has power in that rear cross, but kind of sloppy. Comes forward throwing a little bit wild sometimes. And he more relies on his athleticism and his range and just his ability to throw fast straights more than his technique. And then he always also has these really weird kicks. Super durable. The guy can take a lot of damage and keep coming. Against MVP, I don't think it's a good game plan to be trying to take damage, though, just because MVP is a sharpshooter that's going to land clean on your chin. And Holland doesn't do the best with leg kicks, so I think MVP is going to be really investing heavily in the low kicks. If Holland wanted to, he probably could get takedowns and win with that, but I really don't see that happening. I mean, I would be pretty shocked if he went in there and made it a boring fight. It's going to be a stand-up fight, a boring fight in terms of laying on top of him. I think it could still be a boring striking fight, but it's going to be a striking fight. And MVP, he has the hands down, super wide stance, extremely elusive guy with great head movement, and then he's extremely fast, and he's coming in with these real pinpoint punches, these crazy kicks, and very explosive dynamic. But he's older, man. I mean, the guy's 38 years old now at this point, and with that style, I don't think it really does well with as he ages. I feel like he really relies a lot on his athleticism, his reflexes, and that's not going to get better with time. And he's been fighting very infrequently. Like, he's fought like one time a year for the last 4 or 5 years. So there's some red flags with MVP as well. Even his last fight, like with Goiti Yamauchi, which was like his only fight in MMA in 2 years, it lasted like 30 seconds. So he hasn't been very active. But when I'm looking at this matchup, I just feel like MVP is going to land cleaner in a striking fight. I feel like it's going to be more of a sparring pace. And I don't see Kevin Holland taking advantage of the advantages that he has. So I'll say MVP wins this one via decision. And up next, we got the co-main event, Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. And I'm really excited for this fight, man. I've been looking forward to this fight. This fight and the main event are two of the best fights the UFC has had booked in a long time, if you ask me. And great matchup here. I mean, we got the old guard versus the new guard with Dustin Poirier taking on a guy that's streaking, coming up in the rankings, undefeated at lightweight, and has been killing everyone that he's fought, but taking a huge step up here. I mean, he's going from Matt Frevola to Dustin Poirier. I mean, to me, that's like extremely big step up. I mean, you're going from a fringe top 15 guy to one of the best lightweights of all time. So it's a chance for Benoit Saint-Denis to really make a name for himself, to get on the map and become an instant title contender. There hasn't been a lot of movement at 155. Like, the main guys at the top have been at the top for a long time, and they've been kind of fighting each other in these title fights, and there hasn't been a lot of chance for new blood to break in. But Benoit Saint-Denis is getting that chance. He's going to get that chance to kind of jumpstart the division a little bit, get a new face up there in the top 3, top 5 if he can win. And Dustin Poirier is trying to say not so fast. You know, I still got a couple more fights in me. I know I lost my last fight to Justin Gaethje, but before that I was making my title run. I was beating Gaethje in that fight before I got caught, and I'm still not going anywhere. And I think that it's a statement in itself that Dustin Poirier accepted this fight with Benoit Saint-Denis. I don't think Dustin Poirier is the type of guy that's going to shortchange fans and the UFC on effort. I don't think he's going to shortchange them on having a piss-poor camp. I just don't think he's that type of guy. The guy is someone that puts his heart and soul into this fighting, and I feel as if he signs his name on the dotted line to fight a guy like Benoit Saint-Denis, he's going to go in there and he's going to be at 100% and trying as hard as he can to get the win. Because I see this narrative like Dustin's taking this as a paycheck or he's on the way out, and I just personally don't agree with that. But stylistically, I mean, it's an awesome matchup. Both guys have a chance to win. I do think it's going to be a bigger adjustment for Benoit Saint-Denis than Dustin Poirier by a lot, though, because Benoit Saint-Denis, at least from my knowledge, hasn't fought any southpaw guys. He's fought all orthodox fighters. I know Nicholas Stolze was switching stances a little bit, but even that fight, it was mostly a wrestling fight, and we've never really seen how effective Benoit Saint-Denis is in that southpaw versus southpaw stance, because when you look at him fight orthodox fighters, his main weapon and what he's really predominantly won the majority of his fights with outside of his wrestling and grappling is that left kick, the left kick to the body, the left kick to the legs, or to the head. We saw the head kick on Matt Frevola. We saw him just spam that body kick on all of his opponents pretty much. And with this southpaw versus southpaw stance, that's not going to be available. I mean, Saint Denis going to have to probably wrestle a lot harder and a lot more frequently and not strike as much and probably not have as much offense on the feet, because I just don't see him boxing with Dustin Poirier going good. I mean, he could clip him. The guy has crazy heart, and he's going to be throwing bombs. So Poirier has to be very aware that Saint Denis has that power. But I think taking away his kicking game is a big factor in the fight that none of the people are talking about. I don't think that his kicks are going to be super available outside of leg kicks. And I think Dustin Poirier is the better, and he's been more proven at being good at landing calf kicks on that southpaw versus southpaw, in that southpaw versus southpaw matchup. I mean, I think that Dustin could get ahead with leg kicks and really bust up Saint Denis' legs. And I think the boxing, there's going to be a huge skill disparity favoring Dustin Poirier. I feel like he's going to be able to land counters. I think he's going to be able to land clean in the pocket. Saint Denis has bad defense, very limited head movement, and I don't think his hands are really that good. So ultimately, I think if Poirier keeps this one on the feet, he's going to win this one via knockout, either in the first or the second round. I think he's going to be able to get Saint Denis out of there if it stays a striking fight. But for Saint Denis, what he wants to do is he wants to mix it up. He wants to be able to back up Poirier with that crazy pressure and wild striking, and then get it on the legs, take him down, try to get into a dominant position and submit Poirier or get Poirier tired and then beat him up. And this fight being 5 rounds, I think, is also a pretty significant factor. And I see a lot of people talking about Poirier's gas take, but I think Benoit Saint Denis' gas take also needs monitoring. I mean, the guy has finished all his UFC fights pretty quickly within the first 2 rounds that he's won. And his fight with Zaleski, I know he took crazy damage. I know it was at 170. I know it was on short notice, but definitely gassed in that fight. And then he's only been in the 3rd round one other time. I mean, this fight's going to be 5 rounds. If this gets to the 4th round, the 5th round, is Saint Denis going to have that same cardio and ability to fight in those rounds that we've seen Poirier prove that he has? We don't really know. I mean, it could be a Shamil Ghasayev situation. But I do think if Saint Denis could get the grappling going in the early rounds, he's probably going to take over, snowball, and probably eventually finish the fight. So it's really, really pivotal for Poirier to defend the early grappling and show that this is going to have to be a stand-up fight. And if Poirier can do that, I think he's going to win by knockout. So when I'm looking at these odds of the line and just the resume of these guys, I get that Poirier, he's coming off a knockout loss. He's older, and Benoit Saint Denis has been looking like a killer running up the rankings. But I'm going to go with Dustin Poirier, and I'm going to predict him to win the first or second round of knockout in this one. I just think it's too big of a step up for Saint Denis, too fast. I don't think you can go from fighting Thiago Moises and Joel Alvarez to fighting Dustin Poirier. I feel like it's too crazy of a jump, and I think Poirier, he's been training with Mateusz Gamrot for this fight, and I feel like he's going to have his wrestling on point due to that. And I just think Dustin's not done yet. So give me Poirier to win this one. I think he's going to win via first or second round KO. And finally, we saved the best for last. We got the main event. Sugar Sean O'Malley, the champ, taking on Marlon Chito Vera in a rematch from their controversial first fight where Chito Vera is the only man to have that one put on Sean O'Malley's record right now, whether he likes it or not. He got the knockout over Sean O'Malley and was able to get the jump on him. So now Sean O'Malley, in my opinion, cherry-picked Marlon Vera here. I mean, he said, okay, we got this background. We fought already. I feel like I was doing probably, in his head, thinking I was probably doing pretty good in that fight. Had an injury. I could win that fight. That's an easy fight. It's going to be a striking fight for me. We're both going to talk. We're going to build it up. This is a good fight. It's kind of Sean O'Malley kind of cherry-picking Marlon Vera, man. But I think you got to be a little bit weary when you're cherry-picking. You got to pick the sweet cherries. This guy's sour, Marlon Vera. I think this is going to be a rough fight, man. Honestly, I think a lot of people are definitely counting out Marlon Vera, and I don't really know why. Like, a lot of people are speaking like he got dominated in the Sandhagen fight, and I understand that, but Sandhagen had like 13 minutes of top control. I mean, I don't think if you think Sean Miles is going to take him down and control him on the ground, I mean, maybe he could, but that's part of the reason why Vera ended up getting no offense off and his striking was ineffective, because he never got started. He kept getting taken down and held down for the whole fight, and of course he showed horrible, he just wasn't on in that fight. He wasn't getting up off his back and just was too calm when he was getting put in bad situations. I think thinking, okay, I'm going to eventually get the knockout, and it never ended up happening for him. So he needs to learn from that and know, like, hey, if I'm in this bad spot and I can get out, let's get out right away. Let's not play this game like let's play the long game and we're going to eventually find the knockout. Let's try to really push this fight. You know you have the cardio to do it. And but when you're looking at this fight stylistically, I think it's super, super interesting because we got clash of strikers, and Sean O'Malley, the guy's going to be moving around. He's going to be looking to use that footwork and snipe from the outside, try to catch Chito Vera early and put his lights out, like he likes to say. But Marlon Chito Vera has been a Terminator, man. The guy's been unable to get knocked out so far in his UFC career. He hasn't even been really hurt in many fights. He's been able to eat shots, walk forward, and has a really high guard, tight guard. Doesn't really take any crazy damage in most of his fights. Another thing about Chito that's really, I think, underrated that people don't talk about is the guy's like indestructible. He never freaking, like, after a 5-round fight where he takes 200 strikes, his face is clean, like he never even got touched. And Sean O'Malley on the opposite end, I mean, that guy, you could argue he's a little fragile. Like, he got his leg hurt by Chito, had a broken foot, which almost cost him another fight. So I feel like if you're thinking this durability wise, who's going to be better in the later rounds, who's going to be able to have the cardio and the heart and the will, and whose body is going to be performing better when they're both tired, I think that's going to be Chito Vera. So Sean O'Malley, I mean, I think it's going to be really, really on him to get that early finish in the first few rounds, which I think is going to be hard to do against a guy like Chito Vera. And if he can't get the finish, he has to put damage on Vera, where Vera's hesitant to close the distance and maybe tired or compromise himself just from taking shots. But I just feel like Chito's going to walk this guy down. I think he's going to be able to eventually start to land on him, and I think he's going to get him out of there, man. I don't have like a crazy technical breakdown for this fight, but I just feel like we haven't really seen Sean O'Malley's heart tested still, even though he went out there and took the belt over Aljo, got the win. It was a clean performance and very impressive performance, but this is different. I mean, I think he's going to be fighting a guy that is going to be very confident in the striking against O'Malley. He's going to be walking O'Malley down, getting in his face. I think he's going to be able to eventually close the distance and start to land. And I think when it becomes more of a dogfight, I feel like Vera is going to end up winning that battle. And I think Vera could take him out, man, in these later rounds. So Chito Vera is the pick for me. I picked him the first time these guys fought. I'm picking him again here. I just like him long term in this fight with Sean O'Malley. I feel like Sean O'Malley has shown he can get tired. He showed he can get hurt. He has, in my opinion, had fights where he's landed like crazy amount of strikes and still couldn't get the guy out of there. So that gives me confidence that Chito's not going to get knocked out or dropped or severely damaged. And I just think Chito has that confidence going into this fight. I think both guys are confident, but I think Chito has more of that championship aura this week. I don't know what it is, but I got Chito Vera, man. I'm going to say he wins via third or fourth round KO TKO in this fight. I think he's going to be able to become the champ here and get the job done, get the belt, get the strap for Ecuador. So Chito Vera is going to be the pick for me. Upset in the main event. I think the line is crazy. Like, I don't understand how you could justify those odds personally. Almost 3-1 for O'Malley. I mean, I just don't agree with that. I don't know if anyone that doesn't have a wrestling threat should be that big of a favorite over Chito Vera in a 5-round fight. But there you have it, guys. That's the full card breakdown predictions video. And hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. As far as my most confident pick of the week, I'm going to go with Assu Amayev. And for the party of the week this week, I'm going to go with Assu Amayev Macy, Barber, and Mateos Gamrot. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be back breaking down another fight card soon. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I do have PFL content this week. I got UFC extra content bets for UFC 299 on patreon.com/MPredictionGuru. So support the channel. Come check out the Patreon. Make yourself some money. And really appreciate you guys. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Let's try to get over 100 likes on this video. And outside of that, man, I'll talk to you guys soon.